Alright, what up? We're into our next unit. Now you know grades are due by the end of this week, so you have today, Thursday, and tomorrow, Friday, to turn stuff in. We are going to go over the test from yesterday and go over your average as it stands right now after these notes. Okay, so this triangle stuff is going to go on to the next 9 weeks, which is actually only 6 weeks long. It's a short 9 weeks, okay? Well, let's talk about triangle classification vocab. So it says triangles have 3 sides and 3 angles. Of course, the sum of the 3 angles of every triangle is 180 degrees. You have to know this. So let's say it again. The sum of the 3 angles of every triangle is 180 degrees. Okay? Now there's always 2 ways to classify a triangle. So this first row you can classify by the angles, or the second row you can classify triangles by their sides. So let's talk about this first one. Classifying triangles by their angles. Okay, so you look at this first triangle, all the angles are less than 90, all angles are acute, means that is an acute triangle. Okay. This next one to the right of it, no pun intended, with one right angle, the other angles are acute. This is a right triangle. And then this one to the right of that, one obtuse angle. How many? One obtuse angle. The other angles are acute. Okay, so this is called an obtuse triangle. So, let's recap. If you have all angles that are acute, all 3 angles are acute, 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 that's an acute triangle. If I have just one right angle, that's a right triangle. Side note, you cannot have more than one right angle in a triangle. It will not make a triangle. And then obtuse, just one angle greater than 90. One obtuse angle. Okay? So we got these 3 classifications, classifying by their angles. And now let's try to classify by their sides. So the sides, what do I call it when all 3 side lengths are the same? Okay, so when I think of same, I'm going to think of the word equal, and this is called equilateral. Equilateral. This is different than spelling the word equal, because there's an I right here, not an A. It's equilateral. Alright? So all 3 side lengths are the same, and that means all 3 angles have the same measure, which is going to be 60 degrees. Okay, if all the sides are equal, all the angles are equal, and what would the angles have to be if they're equal and they add up to 180, like it says up here? Well, then we know it has to be 60 plus 60 plus 60 to get 180. Okay? So we're going to label this with tick marks. I want everyone to hear me say this. These are tick marks. These little lines that I put on the sides. Tick mark means they are congruent, right? So these 3 tick marks means those 3 sides are congruent. Same length. Okay, the second triangle, what if only 2 sides are the same? Okay, so I'm going to label 2 tick marks. Alright? Now, 2 tick marks means 2 sides are the same. Also, 2 base angles are the same. So I'm going to put an arc here and an arc here. I want everyone to see 2 congruent sides gives you 2 congruent angles, and that's called isosceles. Isosceles. Okay. Sorry for that. Isosceles. Okay. So not trying to be too weird. Okay? But when you think of isosceles, I want you to think of how many eyes you have. How many eyes do you have? 2. Isosceles, 2 congruent sides and 2 congruent angles. Isosceles. All right, bet. So, third one over here. What if none of the sides are congruent? None of the measures are the same. As a result, none of the angles are the same. That's called scalene. Miss Marrero might have a song for this. Okay, so, ladies and gentlemen, at the bottom we're supposed to practice drawing an example of all 7 combinations, okay? Now, what would our 7... So combination means that we can combine the angle and the side classifications of the triangles, okay? And we want to make sure we label tick marks for side lengths, all that good stuff. So, we're going to pick one of these angle classifications and then one of the side classifications. Okay, so let's pick the first one on top, and the first one on the bottom. Acute equilateral. So let's draw a picture of that. Do your best to make it equilateral, all sides equal. Something like that. So all the sides will be congruent, and all the angles will be congruent. Acute equilateral. Don't draw big, okay? You need to have some, they need to be reasonably small so you can get 7 triangles on this page, right? Alright, next, let's try to draw. Now, let me ask you a question. Can you make a right equilateral? If equilateral means every angle is always going to be 60, can you have a right triangle and only 60 degrees? Okay? So, I mean, if you were to write down right equilateral, we are going to definitely cross that out. It's impossible. Can't do it. Another one, combination, obtuse and equilateral. Again, equilateral has all congruent angles that are 60 degrees. You cannot make an obtuse equilateral triangle. So we're eliminating what's impossible here. So let's start with the next. What about an acute isosceles? What would that look like? Okay, all 3 of my angles need to be less than 90, and I need 2 sides that are congruent, which has the opposite angles are also congruent. Okay. What about acute scalene? So all of our angles need to be, or sorry, all of our sides need to be different measurements for scalene. We can show that by using different tick marks. 1 tick, 2 tick, 3 tick. All the angles are less than 90, and every side length is different. What about a right Isosceles. Okay, so I'm going to make a right angle. Make sure each of those is the same length. And then boom, boom. Right and isosceles. Okay, what about right scalene? Again, we're going to draw a right angle, but these two side lengths are going to be different lengths. So here's my right, and each of these is different lengths. Right scalene. And we have two more to fit on here. So what about obtuse isosceles? Okay, so I want to make a big obtuse angle with two equal side lengths, like that, and then connect them. This is the same as this. Here's my big obtuse angle, right? These have to be the same. Last one would be what? Obtuse scalene. Okay, which is going to be make a big obtuse angle, but make sure these don't match, these side lengths. Let me exaggerate that a little bit. Okay, so here's my obtuse angle. Each side length is different. Okay, so does everyone see all the possibilities? Two of them you cannot do. There's no such thing as a right equilateral. There's no such thing as an obtuse equilateral. It's impossible. Every other combination is possible. You just want to make sure you label it correctly, okay? So with that said, we are going to go to the back side of this, so you can flip it over, and we are going to try some examples of this, and that'll help you with your assignment today. So, here we go. Classify each triangle by its sides. So again, just by its sides. These are your options. So number one, each of these sides is different, right? Each side length, none of them are congruent or equal in their measure. So which one of these would that be? Scalene. Number two, looking at the side lengths, I have 3.1, 3.1, 5.1. Two sides are congruent. What do we call it when two sides are congruent? Two like my eyes, isosceles, right? The next little section says classify by the angles. I only want one of these three. Please read the instructions carefully when you do your assignment. Out of these three, let's look at our angles. I got 29 degrees, I got 61 degrees, and I got a right angle. When I have one right angle, which one of these three is it? It's a right angle. Number four, 28 degrees, 28 degrees, 124. What kind of angle is 124? That is an obtuse angle. All you need is one obtuse angle. And that's the only, you can only have one obtuse angle. Alright, classify each triangle by its angles and sides. Angles and sides. Both this and So, let's do both. On number 5, let's talk about the sides first. Every side is different. Scalene. Every angle is less than 90. Acute. Number 6. Every side is equal. Equilateral. Okay, every angle is less than 90. Number 7. There are 2 congruent sides. 2 like my eyes. Isosceles. And I have 1 right angle. That's right. Literally. Number 8. 2 sides are congruent. 2 like my eyes. Isosceles. 1 right angle. That's right. Aren't y'all lucky to have the same thing twice? 7 and 8. Down here, this is like what we just did on the prior page. We're going to draw a picture of it. Acute Isosceles. Okay. So, something like that. All the angles are less than 90. I got 2 congruent sides. Make sure you label with the tick marks. Number 10, right scalene. So I'm going to make a right angle. Make sure these sides are not the same. Tick, 2 tick, 3 tick. Scalene, all the sides must be different. Obtuse scalene. So I'm going to get my obtuse angle here. Exaggerate the difference so I can see it. This is my obtuse angle. And then last but not least, equilateral. Every side needs to be congruent. Tick, tick, tick. All the same. So you're going to use this to do your assignment when you get it. But now a word from your teacher.